Welcome to Up, and Away, the restaurant marketing podcast, saving the world from bad marketing, brought to you by Qubriux, the all-in-one platform for loyalty and customer engagement. In today's topic, we're going to be talking about email best practices. I say this a lot, but we could probably talk about this one for a whole hour, maybe a whole day. We're going to keep it to 30 minutes, but I want you to meet Arun. He's the founder and CEO of Qubriux. He's a tech veteran with over 2 decades of experience. For Qubriux, the principal data scientist and architect for developing Starbucks' personalized customer engagement platform. Hello, I'm Rev Ciencio, hospitality marketing consultant, tech evangelist, content creator, co-founder, fidget spinner fanatic, and CMO at Handcraft Burgers and Brew in New York City and Salad House in New Jersey. All right, team, we are going to talk about what I like to consider the hero of digital marketing, the channel you actually own that when you do it right, keeps you top of mind with your guests, promotes all of your things, brings your guests back, and basically prints money. By the way, it's called email, if you haven't figured that out yet. Email is the preferred mode of communication between consumers and brands. It's the best tool for driving retention, and that's what makes it worth your attention. I say that all the time. Here's the deal. Most restaurant emails, they either go right to spam, they're boring enough to cause insomnia, or just use as tools to give your guests free food that they probably would have been happy to pay for. I've tested that, by the way. Today, we're not just talking about sending those emails, though. We're going to deep dive into some best email practices for restaurants. We're talking subject lines that get opens, content that get clicks, and most importantly, get those guests coming back and spending more. And to help us navigate the inbox battlefield and craft emails that will truly connect with your guests, we've got literally the architect of intelligent customer engagement, Arun. Man, what an amazing intro we gave you today. I hope you enjoyed it.
It is, yes. So I think coming to email marketing, Rev, what is the one thing most of us do every day? Open our email, right?
I tell people all the time, I was like, if you want to get a message to me, put it where my eyeballs are.
Exactly. And now, sometimes why does email marketing sucks? That's also a question. I think the main culprit here is that irrelevance. If either the person who is sending is irrelevant or the content he or she is sending is irrelevant. And if you make it as a habit, then your email marketing is going to sink.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I always say this too. I'd rather somebody send the email than not send the email. But for sure, you can only get away with being irrelevant or irresponsible for so long. You know what I mean?
Yes. So I think email marketing is a hero in retention marketing if you do it right. Once the customer knows you and you know the customer, that's even better. Then email marketing is absolutely fantastic. But it's not as powerful in acquisition marketing. If you're trying to acquire a new customer, I'm not saying it won't work, but it's way more effective in retention than in acquisition. Because purely that when you try to acquire the customer don't know you, you don't know the customer. It goes both ways.
Yeah, I mean, I say it all the time. I think that most humans, myself included, really, we only frequent like 5 restaurants, right? If like the place I eat for lunch, the place I get coffee, the place I eat with my family, whatever like my kind of like local fave is, and like whoever's like the hot rotating fifth. And outside of that, I don't really repeat a lot of restaurants. I think that's all humans, right? We really just frequent like 5 restaurants. And if your restaurant is in my top 5, it's your job to stay top of mind, right? If your restaurant's not my top 5, it's to get into my consideration set. Okay. And either way, the easiest way to do that, if I've already eaten there, is an email. My eyeballs are there. They're easy to construct. Despite how many bad emails I get from restaurants, they're not that hard to do. It's really, really scalable. Yeah. And the data that's behind it is pretty intense. So, okay, before we continue, just say how much we love email. Like, clearly we need to send it a love letter. But I mean, do you think like all restaurants need to care about email? Is this for everybody?
I would say yes. I don't find a scenario why someone should not care about email. No. I would only say that you don't send an email if you don't have an email list or that email list is third party acquired and if you don't have consent of the customer. But that's a different thing. But otherwise I don't see a reason. It is for everybody. And there are finer nuances, etc., like how often you can send, etc. But short answer, yes.
I totally agree. By the way, it was a setup question, by the way, everybody. Um, in 2025 and probably even really beyond, what is it that restaurants should really deeply care about mastering email? Like, what is the really the highest power that it holds as a tool?
I think as I told, right? So email is still one of the places where you get the largest eyeballs. Like everyone take a look at their email at least once a day. So what are the most important things when you do email marketing? And go back to a few things what I always say. One, have a clear objective in your mind. You know who you are sending. Have a powerful segmentation behind it. Have a clear objective behind it. Typically, you can send the email content in two categories. One is those categories where you want to send relevant content to the customers, right? It is customers are getting something out of it. Mostly, I would rather say that every email there should get something out of it. But more than that, the second, if you compare it to the second category of email, it is purely to get some mind share of the customer. And you want to ensure that you are still on their mind. For example, you just send a newsletter about, hey, we have a special concert evening going by nearby this weekend. That could be you're not offering a promotion, you're not offering a discount. That is something a relevant communication. And the intent is to capture the mind share of the customer. Right. I forgot the original question actually.
I was just
Like,
asking what what's the unique power it holds, but I think you just talked about it, staying top of mind and retention. I mean, I have a restaurant I used to work with, multi-unit burrito shop. Their weekly email marketing, you're gonna laugh. They send out an email every Monday morning. You know what's in it? A dad joke. There's no promotion. There's no menu item feature. There's no follow us on social media. It's literally like dad jokes every Monday morning. And, I don't know that I would call it best practices or not, but the fact that they do it every Monday morning, they're at least top of mind with their audience, and I would say that, or with their guests, and I would say that is a best practice. Okay, I have an opinion on this, and I'm curious about yours. Curious about yours, that is. How often do you think brands should be sending emails to their guests?
correct. So the short answer is that you have to look at from a customer's point of view, like how often they want to be sent relevant information to them, and which often is somewhere a function of their average frequency of purchase. Like how often they come to your restaurant, somewhere it is related to that. Now, if I come to your restaurant like once in 2 months, and if you're sending me a newsletter or a promotion every week, I might be a little annoyed, right? I'm not ready to interact with you yet, but you're being super aggressive about initiating an interaction from your side to me. But there's no one answer. You actually need to test it out, correct? So what I would say is that maybe approximately once a week, but if you know that your customer frequency, the average purchase frequency is far less than a week, maybe you can increase to once in 2 weeks, but you need to start somewhere. Slowly increase the rate of frequency. Start sending two, and then and see that over a period of time your open rate is still remain same, or your open and other KPIs are coming down. So at some point you'll have a diminishing return, right? You increase the frequency, it actually, more spams are generated, and open rates are less, clicks rate, right? Less. So that's where you know that you're sending too much. But I would say it is, I mean, all this, one of the things after spending so much of time in the world of data is that what works for one person in one situation, what we intuitively see as right. For example, you just mentioned about the dad jokes email works for you, correct? But that need not be a universal truth working for every restaurant. Somewhere I would encourage everyone to have some sort of testing and KPI analysis to validate every hypothesis they have, including the email frequency. So there's no one answer. I would say start with once a week approximately, and then tweak it over a period of time.
Amen. My answer would be very similar to yours. So, but yeah, I tell most people that are just getting started or that are trying to reforget us, like, start weekly, see what happens. I think there are concepts like I've seen juice brands and coffee brands and places that have higher frequency that send 4 or 5 times a week. That feels excessive, but I'm assuming they've tested it. But I'm going to do a slight variation on your answer because for the most part, I agree. But I would say that I would send, if you know your guest frequency, right? Totally agree. I would send it a little shorter than your guest frequency. So, like, let's say your guests on average come every 14 days. I would make sure that 14 days doesn't go by without you hearing from me.
Exactly. That makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. I mean, if you want to get one more level of sophistication, you can actually even personalize even the frequency of sending, correct? You can look at each guest and see what their typical frequency is. And you can get even to predictive analytics is that can you predict approximately when this person is going to show up again? And remind him to show up in not directly like reminding him, but send him a mind share email. One of the things which I did in earlier was to try to predict whether the person is going to come for lunch or a coffee next day or the given. Like if I know that this person is habitually coming for lunch on a Wednesday or a Thursday or on a weekend, I can actually just send a just in time notification. It could be an email, it could be a push notification if the restaurant is having a mobile app. So you can even get that level of sophistication and then measure it.
Yes, totally agreed. Totally agreed. But either way, you should test.
Yeah, just to add to that, right? So if even if you don't have predictive analytics, you can simply create a segment of my weekly lunch audience, right? Go to your favorite segmentation tool, find out those segment of people who are at lunch, and then maybe you can send every alternate day lunch related emails. Hey, time for lunch, and here we are. It could be fun. It could be just a central reminder email. Oh, we didn't see you for lunch for the last 1 week. It could be a personalized email for them. Yeah.
Yes, but to your point, really, the answer is test. And then I think the way I sort of look at like what are the parameters of a test is as long as your unsubscribe rate does not go above like 1.5 to 2%, probably okay.
Correct. And when you mentioned about testing, right? And it's surprising to me that how many people completely rely on their supposed intuition and hypothesis without validating it. Even those hypotheses which been validated in the past, you need to revalidate that. You found something is working last year. Instead of still blindly holding on it, it's still worth testing those hypotheses. Things can change. So, so bottom line, I think testing should be a fundamental aspect of your marketing strategy, including email and everything else.
Amen. Okay. What kind of content do you feel works in emails? Now, again, I know you're gonna go deep down the personalization route, but I think what we're kind of really talking about here is like maybe more newsletters. So my question is like, if I'm sending a weekly email, like what should I be putting into it? What do you think works as content?
I don't have a very strong opinion. I've seen some of the brands do, some of the high profile, 1,000 plus chains do very tech savvy. And I've seen like I work with them to, generate predictive, personalized content. So, but anyway, that's already out of table. One thing which they have seen successful is that every time, irrespective of what the content is, that have their personalized foods image there in the email. It could be content somewhere you substantiate with their favorite foods, and they saw that that's working and increasing the click rate. Like they'll open ended, but the click rate typically increased. But Rev, I would love to know to your thoughts, like what are typically you send as successful newsletters.
Sure. So thank you for asking. For a brand that hasn't got their email game on fleek yet, I'm trying to speak like I'm younger than I am. Um, I tell them to just start with menu item highlights. Show me like an intensely awesome picture of that food item, the what it is, and then like 2 cents of description. Like, honest to God, that's good enough. I subscribe to the Capital Grill, and I think Capital Grill, the steakhouse, has an unbelievable email program. I've been subscribed to it for probably, I don't know, 6, 7 years. And every single email is exactly the same. Hero shot of a dish, name of dish, 2 to 3 sentence, mouth-watering description of dish, and that's it. Like, that's it. And I have to imagine a company as big as that knows what they're doing. Either that or they've hoodwinked me. But if all you do is a really amazing looking menu item highlight, well, like that's the highest calling you have as a restaurant, either no matter what is great food. So if you are not creative, you don't have the time, you don't know what to put in an email, and you're like, shoot, we need to send an email next week, like just menu item highlight, man. You can't go wrong with it. Now, Rev would not let Rev get away with that, but it's good enough. You know what I mean? But then, there's always like, like I don't see enough restaurants sending out, hey, we're hiring emails. I think the easiest people to hire from a wage worker scenario are people that have already eaten at your restaurant. You know what I mean? So, like, now hiring emails work. I think also contests work. We're running one. You'll see an email from Handcraft Burgers and Brew tomorrow. Obviously, we're recording this live, but We run a monthly contest on social media, like a comment to win, like comment below and you'll win. We do free French fries for a year, but a gift card. We then take that and then we put it in an email 2 days later. Want to win free French fries for a year? Like all that email where we're just telling people to go to our social media to enter to win a contest is our most engaged email of the month because we're not trying to sell them anything. We're not trying to get them to download anything. We're not trying to get them to join anything. We're just like, do you want to win some fries? And then honestly, that also becomes our biggest social media post of the month. And then honest to God, like Arun, I track my emails. I know how much money we make when we send an email to the burger shop. It's also my highest converting email of the month. So like, it doesn't have to be about food. It could be calls to action. But like, look, if you're really catering driven, you could talk about catering. Um, if all of your stores or your single store are going to be closed for a holiday like July 4th, that's around the corner. Like that's a worthwhile email. Hey, we're closed on July 4th. If you're supporting a charity, if you're, you have an app you want to promote, if you have like, there's a million reasons why you could send an email. It doesn't have to be here's $5 off your next order, right? But again, I'll just default to menu item highlights always work.
Right, right. So that means it does not always have to be discounts, right? So you can send pretty much anything which is makes sense for the customer.
Yep. So that it was start with menu item highlights and expand around that.
Makes sense. Okay. I think Rev, let's talk about some of your favorite automations you do, right? So with email comes your regular natural automations. What are the typical automations you do?
I do love automations, but I'm also a naysayer. This is where I think you and I differ. I believe that segmentation and personalization are super important, but not at the expense of doing more work than is worth it, right?
Okay.
And so you could spend countless hours analyzing a database, creating automations, creating segments, blah, blah. And my feeling is this: if you're sending a weekly or a biweekly newsletter, like that kind of checks a lot of boxes, right? So
Yeah.
then what the answer I'm going to actually give you is what automations would I say work for every brand, regardless? Okay. And for sure, everybody should have a welcome email flow. Okay. I'll talk about some of the ones I love that we do, but every brand should have a welcome email flow. I enter your database for the first time. Tomorrow I get an email that says, thanks for placing an order, or thanks for being a guest, or here's about the brand. And then, 3 to 5 to 7 at Handcraft, we have 11, but a series of emails over the course of a couple, month and a half that like introduce your guest to all of the things that are really unique and special about your brand so that every single guest gets indoctrinated into your story in the first 2 months they're with you. Like that's how you lock in guests for life. That's probably my favorite automation. It's the one automation I would tell everybody they need. I don't know how you feel about welcome flows.
No, no, I agree. I mean, the basic automations, welcome flows, your win back customer, some of the birthday anniversary promotions if you want to have. Sometimes some upsell emails. So like standards, right? 4 to 5 automations, which typically everyone will have. Now, the other question Rav, you have is that, and maybe our audiences will have. How do you collect emails? Like, hey, should
Um,
I randomly ask this question? Hey, give me your email, or is it more going on there?
Amen. I'm gonna answer that question, but then I want to go back to some of my favorite automations. But so I joke all the time that we are an email collection machine that also makes hamburgers. We will get your email address. Trust me. Um,
Okay.
But look, I think the number one way to get emails is online orders or reservations, depending on your service model. Like use technology to get somebody to either place an order through your website or take a reservation. That's the easiest way to get emails because that's like an opt-in, like, hey, I'm gonna come eat there, send me email, right? That's number one. Um, we're a quick service restaurant, so I think kiosks are an amazing way to get orders. Again, it's just like online ordering, but it's in the store, right? Loyalty programs, I think are really, really key. Um, we run landing page campaigns online where we, $5 off your first order, give us your name and email address to unlock the offer. We collect emails that way. But I think the one that a lot of people sleep on that they really shouldn't is gated Wi-Fi. Um, 1 out of 3 people on my list at the burger shop got there because they walked in the store and they wanted free Wi-Fi. And, look, everybody's got unlimited plans. I got an unlimited plan. Everybody's got an unlimited plan. And they still go to the Wi-Fi. Like I still have this thing in my brain that like I need to be connected to Wi-Fi. And, rather than saying like, oh yeah, here's our Wi-Fi password or, um, I have to go interrupt the bartender or the server, like, hey, what's your password? Like, they're busy, like making food and serving guests. Like, no, no, no. What you do is you take your Wi-Fi, you make it open to everybody, and as soon as they go to get on, it just says enter your email to get access. And you take those emails, and it's an opt-in. Like, I can't tell you, we have a service we use that most of my clients are using. It's $19 a month. Like, I look at it this way, I collect 2 emails a month on $19. It's more than paid for. I get 10 to 12 a day, so it's worth it. But did I miss any? Are there any that you like?
No, no, no. I think that's right. So the next question is that collecting email is fine. But I'm also like from my perspective, I suggest having some sort of a named program. It could be your loyalty program, or it could be as simple as that hey, join my email club, which actually somewhere you're explicitly telling the customer, hey, I'm going to email you, and then do I have a consent, right? Otherwise, sometimes what can happen is that you collect the emails and customer will put that into spam. And if few more customers, so that means there's somewhere you need to have their explicit or sometimes implicit consent that, hey, I'm going to send you emails and that's okay with you.
Oh, yeah, you need the opt-in for sure.
You need opt-in. So, and what my thought is that you need to make that explicit opt-in. So let's say I'm signing up for Wi-Fi and if you're getting my email and it make it a little big and bold that, hey, are you okay to send more emails to you? The risk is that if you don't do that, the risk is that if even if a few customers explicitly say this is a spam, and that means then your domain will over a period of time can become spammy, and a lot of all the emails or a majority of the emails which you send from your domain can end up in spam. Now that being said, I assume that everybody, I mean, is using a separate domain to send emails to customers, which is not their primary domain. I mean, that goes without being said, I believe, right? Otherwise, the risk is that you're going to send your regular email to your business customers and vendors and suppliers that will end up in spam if your email domain is ending up in spam.
Amen. Let's talk about it. Do you recommend that restaurants use a sending domain that's outside their business email to send emails to their guests?
That's exactly I'm talking about. It is. Yeah, if you have an XYZ restaurant, if xyz.com is my regular email, I would actually create a domain called xyzzo, xyznet.net or something, or xyz restaurant. Slightly same, like similar sounding, but a slightly different domain so that I'm safe. Otherwise, it can become very messy.
Have you seen stories of a restaurant brand that had a problem with their email because they were not using a sending domain?
Well, it happened to us in earlier days for us ourselves, right? We were generating leads for our business. That's very early, and we didn't know that. We used our primary domain, and then I'm getting complaint. Hey, I sent you an email, and what's your email? I didn't see it, and they have to go to the spam, and it was a little embarrassing for us. Then we fixed it, but I'm saying that we also were there, so you should be careful, especially if you are sending email collected from third party or sending email without an explicit subscription list. You have to be careful on that. So I would rather suggest have multiple domains if you want, if you may have like not just one email sender domain, maybe one sender. I would say one domain for retention and your existing customers, another domain purely for acquisition marketing, because the domain which you're using for acquiring new customer, a lot of people can say it's spam because as I mentioned earlier, they don't know you, you don't know them, and it's just another random email in their inbox. So that makes sense.
Crazy. Do you have any list health tips you would share?
Of course, I said subscription lists or explicit opt-ins, an ability for customers to unsubscribe. That must be there. So every email should have an unsubscribe link. I think this are a lot of it actually by regulatory policy in a lot of countries. What are the basics? And it's a good practice to warm up your domain earlier in the days. If you're just starting out, there are tools to warm up your domain. I'm not saying it's a must, but it's a good practice to have. Again, I said have multiple domains. Also, I can think about health of the subscription list. Yeah, I think that's all from on top of my mind.
So one of the things that we do with the burger shop and that I do for my clients is we'll periodically go take a look at what is the overall performance of our email program. And if we're unhappy with like the open rate, right? Like if it's lower than we expect or it seems to be trending down, that essentially means that our list is kind of getting old. There's people who are just not opening. The first thing that we'll do is we will archive unsubscribes. So if you hit unsub, like you don't get the emails. That's just a given. Um,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying yes. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so we would do that. And then what we would also do is every once in a while, again, like let's say it's been 3 months of declining open rates. You're at 33, you're at 31, you're at 29, you're at 26, you're 24%, like it's going down. This is a move we totally recommend. So you go create a segment of everybody that's been on your list for at least 90 days, but hasn't opened in 90 days. So they've been subscribed for at least 3 months, but they haven't done anything for 3 months. They're essentially kind of like dead, right? We take them and we put them into a segment. We then send them an email that says, "Hey, we noticed you haven't opened emails in a while. Look, it's totally cool. If you moved out of town or you just don't like our food or we pissed you off, like cool, the unsubscribe button said the below is below, no holds apart. Go for it." Right. However, if we got that wrong and, maybe our emails have just sucked and we need to do it better, we kind of take jokes out of ourselves here. But we're like, if you still want to stay on the list, how about we give you a chance to win a $50 gift card? Okay. And then there's a button in the email that says enter to win a $50 gift card. And it sends them to your favorite social media account. So it could be if you really prioritize TikTok or you really prioritize Instagram, whatever one you prioritize, you send it to them. Your email provider will collect the data on those clicks. It should, right? So you'll know who clicked. Anybody that clicked that button is now entered to win. Hopefully, they're following you on social media. So now you have on the channel retention, right? You wait 7 to 10 days after you send that email, and anybody that opened the email, anybody that clicked on that email stays on the list, and everybody else gets archived. And you'll archive, 18 to 20% of your list at a time. And you'll notice on your very next send, you'll have a much higher open rate because you removed all that dead weight. Plus, if you're using a service like MailChimp or people that pay you, like you have to pay per subscriber, you're also going to have a cheaper subscription rate for your service. So that's a big list health thing we do is, the email cleansing.
Got it. Okay, totally. I think few of the things there which comes to my mind is how do we ensure that the your email program is effective? How do you measure that? How do you know that the two questions there? A, let's say your sale is up, is you're having a good sale, and you happen to send an email during the week. How do we know that it is because of the email the sales went up, or is it because of something else? How do you attribute causation or correlation into that email?
That is a good question. The brands I'm working with, we have a tool that tells us how much revenue we generated from sending the email. So that's a pretty direct way to know if it's working or not. And I know that Qubriux has a similar type tool. So if you have the right tool, for sure you can tell. But kind of overall, there's a little bit of gut marketing, and there's a little bit of gut. Like if I send an email and our sales went up, or I promoted an item, we sold more of it. Like, well, kind of worked. You know what I mean? But either way, here's how I look at it, Arun. I know for a fact that email is the best retention tool. And so there's a little bit of blind faith. There's a little bit of, do I really need to have it measured to the penny to know that it's worth it? No. If enough people tell you it's sunny outside, guess what? It's probably sunny outside. You know what I mean? And if you go outside, yeah, that looks sunny. Like, okay, it's sunny. I'm telling you, email marketing works. You just believe me. But, typically, if I can't measure it at the cash register, I'm looking at an open rate. I'm looking at a click rate. I'm looking at, what was the call to action? Did they take it? How do you measure it? Or do you look at something different?
It's very hard to find an exact causation because there are a lot of factors going on which you're not able to capture, correct? But over a period of time, and one of the things which you can do is that create a segment, which is called a control segment, to which you don't send email at all, and then it could be a small percentage, and then compare their performance in terms of sales versus with your rest of the group with which you're sending email over a longer period of time, and see if there's a substantial difference. Then you know that somewhere your email program is effective. That's one way to do it. But to your point, Rev, email is cheap enough, and what can go wrong? I don't see a lot of things which can go wrong by sending emails, right? At the max, that of course there could be spams, but is there a downward in sales because you're sending emails or too many emails. I can't find a reason, but unless you think otherwise, right? So to my question point is that email is cheap enough. It's not like it costs a lot. So there are not a lot of things go wrong because you're sending emails. Bro, what do you think?
Listen. I've already said enough times. I think it's the most important channel that there is.
Yeah.
So and I would send, but to me, there's lots of ways to look at effectiveness. But like, look, trust me, it works. I know you believe me. What I'm saying, but everybody who's listening to the podcast or watching the video, like, email is the way to go. Um, let's talk about subject lines before we sort of run out to the end of the show here. I'm sure you've tested every subject line there is. What's something you would actually see somebody should avoid in a subject line?
I think consistently saying, okay, 15% discount offer this week, making it as a consistent habit, right? So don't make it too don't make the subject line too transactional every day. I mean, there could be occasionally you can make it, but don't make it as a habit because that will create an your open rate might go up, but I think that will undermine the value of the email itself because it will become too predictable and it will give the brand a little more discount the brand feeling because every email is about discounts or transactional. One thing which you can do is that sometimes people, even if they see the email, they value the email, and if they know that it's a commercial marketing email, they might not open it every time. It could be multiple reasons. So you have an opportunity to get some mind share by ensuring that your brand name is there either in the sender or the subject line somewhere, and also some relevant, interesting information so that it captures my attention. So I think you should be avoiding predictability. You should be putting your brand name either in the sender name or in the subject line somewhere that makes sense. Uh, this would be the broader guidelines I can give.
Amen. I mean, for me, right, it's like you got to test, 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 which we'll probably say over and over and over and over again. Some of the best practices I found is, try to include an emoji in the subject line. If you go look at your inbox right now, if there's one email that has an emoji in the subject line, it probably sticks out to you, right? Now, I've been saying this for years, and so now you would expect everybody would put emojis in their subject lines. They don't. So put relevant subject lines in there, and then, I think to your point, stay short and sweet, right? The least amount of characters possible. Um, Try to be, I don't know, maybe cute is not the right word, but like, what can you say in the subject line that makes me go, huh, I want to know more? So like in Handcraft Burgers and Brew, we're a little snarky and a little silly. So we like make jokes in our subject lines. But also, you could just be like, hey, burger lover. You know what I mean? Like, just get my attention. That's really what it comes down to. And I
Yeah,
think that's practice is get somebody's attention.
exactly. Right. And there's one more thing, right? It's not spammy, right? But if you look at like Gmail and I believe other tools also, they categorize emails into promotions. And a lot of people don't open the promotions email. It's not necessarily spammy, but it just promotional email and just goes to a promotion folder. And if you come up with more creative content, subject lines, what you write, maybe you can, instead of going to the promotion emails, you will be able to find a way to directly land in the inbox.
Amen. Okay. Before we go to wrap here, I want to talk about one of my favorite automations at Handcraft Burgers and Brew. Um, we do this email called the 5 Timers Club. Okay. It's surprise and delight. Now you hear those words all the time, surprise and delight. And sometimes it's really hard to come up with like, what should I do as my surprise and delight? This is the one that we do. You can totally steal it from us and it doesn't cost us $1. Okay. We looked at what our guest frequency looks like, and we don't have a ton of guests that get to like 5 trips, right? They get there, but it's not a ton. And I'm guessing most restaurants don't have a ton of if you're a coffee shop, but we don't have a ton. So we have an email that once you get to your 5th transaction, we send you an email and it says just like Justin and Tina. Okay, now we're talking about Tina Fey and Justin Timberlake. Okay, and it's a reference to the Saturday Night Live joke about the 5 Timers Club. And when you open up the email, there's a picture of Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks and The Rock and all the other people that have gotten in the 5 Timers Club. If you've seen that joke at SNL, and it literally says, Hey, welcome to a very elite club called the Five Timers Club at Handcraft Burgers and Brew. We don't have a fancy jacket to send you. We just want to know that we appreciate you and we hope you like the joke. Thanks for being a customer. Like, are you part of our loyalty program? Like, there's nothing really into it. It's just funny. And we'll have guests come in and be like, I got your SNL email. That was really funny. And it was a really simple way to identify how much we appreciate a guest in a really, really fun way. So I would take that and I would encourage anybody who's listening to this podcast or watching the video, like, what can you do with an email automation that's just fun? You know what I mean? That doesn't require something. It could be another simple one that really works is um, sending somebody an email on their anniversary of entering your database. Hey, it's our anniversary together. How do you want to celebrate? Something like that. Anyway, be fun with your email. That's my point.
Absolutely, yeah. Be less predictable in the content. Like having funny, creative ideas in the email works a lot.
Amen. Well, I hope everybody listened today. I hope this was super helpful and inspired you. Of course, you can always reach out to Arun and ask any questions you want about email. You can reach out to me and you reach out to both of us and ask any questions. We are clearly advocates for email and we have a lot to share. We just sort of scratched the surface, but hopefully gave you some good tips and tactics. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed the conversation, can you please share this episode with a friend who might also find it helpful? And remember to give us a rating right now, please. That helps us to spread the word to others who might find us valuable just like you do. And make sure that you hit subscribe on your favorite podcast player so you don't miss out on an episode from us. Cheers.
Just to add to that, Ravi is the master of emails. You can't go wrong with on this subject.
Amen. I'm trying to be a master of Hawaiian shirts, but I'll take emails as well. Thanks, buddy.
All right. Bye-bye.